guys, Max from MaksWerks here. Today we're having another MaksWerks home episode. Last week we replaced the toilet in the master bath and it started leaking because the old subfloor was rotten and the seal wasn't very good, and no matter how many wax springs I put on, it all ended up failing. So today, out of necessity, we're going to make a video how to replace that flange that sits underneath your toilet. Now, I got a couple flanges here to show you. This one has a metal rim with a PVC insert, and then this one is what's called, has a solid PVC, but it's extra long, and you can see the difference very clearly there. This one's much taller. So hopefully what we're going to try to do first is cut off the old flange and just use this flange, because it's a little longer, to compensate for the difference. Now, cutting PVC can be done a couple of different ways. What I prefer is the Garrett, or so basically you just grab it and go around the PVC, it cuts through. It's also a great tool to have around the house in case you need to do a little wet work. Good tool to have. So I'm going to take you guys actually up here into the ceiling with me. Unfortunately, the toilet was leaking, and so it destroyed, basically all that got damp and I had to pull it down. So I'm actually going to take you guys up here with me so that we can have a look-see. Alright, if we get up here, this is the inside of my ceiling, and here you can see all the watermarks and stuff, and this on the top side actually over here is all rotted through. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to remove this PVC coupler up here, put the new one on. We're going to put 2x4 braces in here, and we're going to actually cut out the subfloor and replace it. But first we got to remove this thing and make sure the new one fits, and then we'll reinforce and go from there. So yeah, this is probably not going to be a lot of fun. So here's what it looks like from up here. Here's the piece I just cut off, and what we're going to check is we're going to see if this, yeah, so that's shitty. That's super duper shitty. It's just not long enough, because you can actually see that these are really pretty much the same height. So all that work was for pretty much nothing. I'm going to have to go and buy one of these elbows and redo this, basically, unless I can find one of these that goes inside. So back up here, there's really only two options. If I can find an internal flange, I can do just use this coupler, maybe cut it down a little bit and use this coupler to basically sit on top of that and have the flange come inside. Otherwise, I'll have to cut this right here and then redo this section right here using a coupler like that, which I really don't want to do. But there's not really any way of getting that internal piece out, at least that I know of. I mean, I could try to cut it from up there, but it would be really pretty difficult without damaging this elbow. So after messing around with it for a little bit, I realized that pretty much the only way is to cut off this pipe right here and just replace all of this, because there's not enough left to put a new flange on, and there's too much to put that coupler thing on. And if I cut that down anymore, then the coupler won't work. And I can't get it out of this angle because this is all glued and cemented shut. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut it right here. We're going to put the coupler on it. And then we're basically going to recreate this section right here. Now we got the pipe cut. We got the measurements done. It was exactly 9 3/4 inches from here to the connection of the next joist. Now that we got all this out of the way, what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to install 2x4s in here to reinforce this, so that we can cut this out and replace it with a fresh piece of 3/4 plywood. It's important to reinforce this so you got something to put the bolts into. So we're just going to cut some 2x4s and get them in there. So there you can see, put in two 2x4s for support. We're going to cut out this rotten, semi-rotten piece so we can basically make a new hole. That's the main goal here. So we're going to cut halfway over here. We're going to halfway onto each of these studs. So these will hold up this side, and basically they'll hold up both sides. So we're just going to cut this middle piece. What I did was I ran screws up through here and then I took them out. So now we got holes up there so we know exactly where our joists are, and we can go up there with the rip saw and cut it out. So here you can see it's all still nasty. So we're going to be replacing basically here, 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 and here. This square we're going to be replacing. This right here and this right here where we put in those new studs. This is empty. Over here there's a stud right there so that we can screw into. So we're just going to use this saw, and what's important is over here on all these saws there's an adjustment, and what you want to do is you want to make sure it's set for 3/4 depth, which this saw is. So you just cut through this, you don't cut through the 2x4 underneath. So once we cut this out, we can cut a new piece of wood, drill a new hole, or jigsaw a new hole, and then get done with the plumbing. Now this is what you want to see. You want to go from this to this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this out of a fresh piece of wood, and then bolt it down there, shop vac this stuff up, and then get to work on the pipe itself. So now we're going to put this on so we can measure the pipe before we cut out the PVC and get the angle and everything in place so we can get everything squared away. So this stuff, so for whatever reason, Home Depot sells these individually for like $7 a can, or both cans for $8. So always get both, because you really need both if you don't have them. The first is purple primer. What you do is you slather this on the inside and the outside of the mating for a few seconds, and then you slather on this medium clear PVC cement. Then you basically hammer your PVC piece or whatever on flush, and you're done. You really can't and shouldn't use one without the other. It's basically plastic fusion or plastic welding. It's chemical based, but you can mix these in the sense that like you can just brush them on with the brushes in the can, and you don't have to worry about this setting or something like that. But yeah, so make sure you use both. You just slather them on and then smack this on. I believe it's like workable inside of like 30 seconds or something. So you want to make sure you do it right the first time. Alright, as you can see, all the PVC work is done. You have to put in the final piece from upstairs, so you can make sure it's dead nuts on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut out the plywood, and then I'm going to measure a piece of pipe that'll go in there that the flange will sit on, and that's how we will cut the hole just big enough for the pipe and the flange, rather than what they did before, which is just cut a big ass hole. That way we can mount all of our screws properly. So what we did was we marked where it's going to come through. This circle is actually too small. We need to make it the size of the bottom of the flange, and then we're going to use a jigsaw basically just to cut it out. Then we can mount this board, finish mounting the pipe and the rim, and then hopefully put the toilet back on. So there you go. As you can see, the hole isn't absolutely perfect, but it's a lot better than it was, and it's really pretty close. So now we're going to go upstairs, clean everything up, screw this board down, and finish doing all of these connections. So there we go. This thing's in there solid like a rock. And now we just got to paint this guy, slip it on there, and then probably basically try to put this flooring back down, and then put the toilet on. There's the finished product. Got these screwed down. Obviously I need to screw that one down a little further. But board's in place. We're actually going to use, instead of using standard wax rings, going to use this thing. It's like twice the cost, but after buying like 15 goddamn wax rings, I'm kind of sick of it. And this also still has a wax ring on the bottom, but it basically just sits like so, and then this part goes on the bottom of the toilet. It makes a nice big seal. It's extra tall against the toilet. So we're going to do that. We're going to put I'm going to tighten this down. I'm going to put the flooring back, and we're going to install the toilet, and that's pretty much it, guys.